Welcome to a new edition of the Neon Jazz interview series with Kansas City jazz pianist Jackie Myers. We caught up with her from her Kansas City home in late April 2020 during the COVID-19 quarantine to talk about this new jazz world that we live in. She opened up about her brand new CD, Clementine, and how she saw the end of all of her gigs and the beginning of this new jazz world and all of that hope for the future. So please dig it.
Thank you for taking a minute out. It's obviously an enormously surreal existence we live in. So I kind of want to talk about Clement. I did buy a track yesterday. I've been really heeding to what all the musicians have been saying, and I do have streaming, but I did specifically buy some music yesterday. But I want to talk about COVID-19, this weird new world we're in, and I also want to talk about the new album. You got a great review from Bill Brownlee, and just kind of talk a little bit about some things. So thanks for taking a minute.
Yeah, no problem.
So let's start off here, and I guess this other world we used to live in prior to about March 13th was just radically different from probably anything we're ever going to see again. Talk to me a little bit about how all these wheels started grinding and you realized, wow, we're in a whole different world where the jazz is going to be silenced live.
Gosh, it's been in stages for me, just like everybody else. For me, it was really odd because I had spent the month of February pretty much secluded in Florida because I was at an artist residency. And then I came back, and I don't even think it was 2 weeks before, already on the plane back from Florida, there was some concern. And then it hit like a ton of bricks. So I went from studying and being pretty much alone with my art to coming home, and then it was like, you are now you need to be alone because of COVID. So it went from art quarantine to health quarantine. So for me in particular, it's been super strange. And then just the concern for my fellow artists and for my community has been really tough. And in order to continue making music and just being myself has been a challenge. Just being able to claim my identity in this time has been hard. And that's gone through stages too. I spent 2 days teaching myself the technology I needed in order to play online. And I had to get a whole bunch of gear. And the scramble for gear was a struggle in itself because everyone was doing it at the same time. There was a period of time where it seemed okay to have people come over and be in your living room and play. And then that time passed. And then it was back to solo. Some people are doing some outdoor stuff, but navigating those waterways has been really difficult and just kind of a totally new experience. But the community has come through in so many ways. Other musicians have given me really good advice. Other people figuring it out, posting daily updates from different people. A la mode, the band, Jessica and Clayton, have been emailing the community on a regular basis saying, hey, this is how you do unemployment. This is how you register for this. You should join the Jazz Ambassadors. So there have been some people that kind of stood up. The Jazz Ambassadors are creating a fund. They've been really cool. There's been a fund out of the blues community as well. So you see some people reaching out, and that's been really cool to see.
Yeah, I think that's the part of this that's been really nice because at the end of the day, I think this has been kind of like an organism that's grown. It was like this little seed in the beginning. No one knew what was going on, and it's grown, and now there's all these branches and all these different things that are going on. And I think aspects of what's happening now in the world of jazz are going to be residuals. It will never replace live, but I think there might be a survival for other times. And this is the thing, covering jazz and watching how you guys roll. You all are not in this for the money. You all are very integrity-filled, strong individuals that are orchestrating a very high art. So at the end of the day, you think about the innovation that came out of all of the racism and all of the race riots when all of the clubs were burned down. Coltrane made a Love Supreme. A Love Supreme was made during that. So you talk about the potentiality for innovations and all of that. Have you thought about that?
Well, I think with any difficulty, a time of difficulty, there's always going to be a search for a silver lining. I think that search is going to be fruitful in this case. I say that cautiously because a lot of people are suffering, and I think there is something to be said about being careful about how much we look for creation and how much we try to make these lemons into lemonade, so to speak. People are going to suffer, and that is undeniable, and we're going to have to cope with that. And I think one way of coping is moving on, is creating, is coming together. So in that way, the artists are going to keep making art, and the people that bring us together are going to keep doing that. So I think you're right. I mean, this is going to bring forth something. I don't think we've seen all of it yet, but I know, last night I spent 2 hours on the phone with another jazz artist trying to figure out if we could play ballads on a cell phone and on Zoom. And how do we continue improvising together? Because jazz is one of those things that happens in the moment. It's probably the most social of the musical genres because it's improvisational. You're literally feeding off of the ideas and energy of other people in real time. So how do we do that? We can't even see each other, be with each other. And yet we're still trying. It's like contradictory to the idea of improvisation itself. And the fact that we're still trying and still making things is really powerful. I think just the effort is the silver lining.
What do you think, your mentality obviously is you were, away for a month in a very creative cauldron was probably quite relaxing. What do you think that has done for you during this time versus just living the life that you typically would have led as a Kansas City musician? Have you thought about that?
I wouldn't call the time. The place that I was in Florida was beautiful, but it was by no means a vacation. They expect you to work, and I expected myself to work. It's like a once-in-a-lifetime kind of opportunity. How many times you get a month out to get as much practice as you can in, and you don't have to worry. If I just took a month out from my life voluntarily, I would miss out on gigs. I would suffer financially. There'd be all sorts of repercussions, but this is a program. It's in place so that you can do just that. So I actually ended up working a lot of that time. And when I came back, I think I had a similar experience as a lot of artists. Although I've had fruitful days, my practice is interrupted. I feel that the discipline that I used to have throughout my days when I would practice, and the direction I would have, the focus, is not what it used to be. I'm still creating and I'm still practicing, and I feel the focus coming back a little bit, but I very much feel interrupted and frustrated by that, especially because I had gone and fused together so many works and so many concepts I was practicing in Florida. It's like I had gotten my focus down to a really fine point where I could practice. Like I was practicing, there was one day I did 8 hours. It was awesome. I worked myself up to that many hours, and I could do it pretty regularly. And then I came back, and if I practice for a couple hours, it's good, but it's really hard for me to get my head out of what's happening and to really create something good or practice the principles I was working on before, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, it certainly does. I think another twist to this whole global pandemic quarantine time is that you've released an album, and it's getting great reviews. I've really enjoyed it. What's that like? Is there a level of it that's bittersweet that you can't be out live doing it, or how you feel about it?
Well, I was kind of torn as to whether I should release it or not. And one thing that this crisis has put into perspective is how lucky I am to be able to. I had an album I could just give. Most people never even get to make an album. I don't know how many albums I've made at this point, but it's a lot. And a crisis hit, and I had a choice, can I put this music out, or should I wait because I couldn't tour with it, I couldn't do this with it, it wasn't what I couldn't do. It was like I had something I could do, and that was amazing. So I'm suddenly super aware of that. And even though I feel like I've lost some of my focus, the fact that I can make music and put that out into the world, even through the live streams, has been like a call to action for me. And in a powerless time, that's been what's kept me going. So there's definitely, like, it's been frustrating, but it's also been amazing to be able to be a person that can do something, even though maybe it's just in my small world, and maybe that's kind of insignificant. But to me, it feels important. So I decided to put out the album, and I was surprised by that review, and I'm proud of it. I'm glad Bill liked it.
Talk to me a little bit about the recording of this album. Who was on there? What kind of magic was happening during the recording of this? Just kind of the overall feeling.
Okay, so, well, the band was awesome. Like, it couldn't be an easier and more talented, hardworking group of people to work with.
Do another.
They wanted to practice.
Actually, you kind of dipped out real quick. Let me do something real quick here. It was
Sure.
You started and then it dipped. So let me come down here just so I don't have any cell issues here. Give me 1 second. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Okay, so you can go ahead and just start the answer again so there's no interruption.
Sure. So the band couldn't have been a better group to work with. They're all super hardworking, really talented, really smart, and really positive people. They wanted to have practice. They wanted to do the session that I wanted to do, which was rather ambitious. I wanted to do something where we did a closed-door session, and then we did another open-door session back to back. So, and they were all in agreement with that, which is incredible. To the personnel individually, if I can list them, Rod Fleeman was on guitar, Ben Pervert was on bass, Todd Strait on drums, Trent Austin on trumpet, and Brad Gregory on saxophones. And it was just, I felt like I put together a group where I could be the weakest link, which is what I want to do when I make albums or when I make bands. That's where you want to be, just surrounded by people that are just amazing. And I definitely got that opportunity here. The latest review said that Rod Fleeman sort of stole the show, and I think everybody had great moments on this album, but there is something to be said about his playing and how easily he goes from genre to genre, because the album really explores a couple different genres, and he's just, like, so malleable. Also, like to say a little bit about Todd Strait. He has traveled the world playing jazz drums and somehow still gave his time to me. And he was also able to do that cross-genre bending. Ben Pervert is a younger guy in the scene, but you cannot tell by his playing. He just has, he plays like he's 20 years older than he is. I'm not sure he's 21 yet. And I just continue to be impressed with his maturity, poise, and skill level. Trent Austin is an import to Kansas City, just like I am. He's from the East Coast. The list of people he's played with is long and impressive, and I won't dump it all right here, but I'm really proud to play with him. I continue to play with him. Before this COVID thing happened, we played at least once a month at Chaz. That was our standing gig. And Brad Gregory was a new introduction for me. He's actually friends with Trent, and I got to know Brad, and he's just like the nicest, sweetest guy. And there was a point in one of the practices where I handed him a chart, and it was for the wrong saxophone. And in the middle of the practice, we just decided he should stay on the wrong saxophone, and he just transposed it without even thinking about it. He just read it in the wrong key, and it was just, he's so impressive. He's so smart and sweet and charismatic. So I just feel like I was extremely lucky to get on that bill and to be working with those guys. So I wanted to say thank you to them.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, one thing, too, that I want to ask, and I know it's rhetorical, but it's also just something that I think is good to voice out. What exactly can the community do to help keep jazz musicians afloat?
There's a number of things. I don't want to speak for everyone. I certainly am not asking people to tune into live streams and contribute directly if they have lost their work. Like, that's not what we want. That's not what I want. If you are suffering financially, then don't give financially. But there are so many other ways. A lot of us are putting out work, whether it's live streams or albums, or we've already put out albums in the past. Go find the work and share it somehow. That really helps. Magnify our signal. Get it out there. For those people that are still working, you have an opportunity here where your free time is at home. You can let us entertain you. And if you enjoy it, think about what you would pay for a night out on the town. What would your bill look like at the end of the night? Maybe throw that in the tip jar if you're so inspired. If you want to do even more than that, go become a member of the Kansas City Jazz Ambassadors. Become a sustaining member. And that way, when we come out of this, not only did you support the community, but you continue to learn about the goings-on in the city. They put out Jam Magazine, and they'll continue to inform the public of the jazz events, not just through Crisis, but next year when we reemerge.
Let me ask you this. We're all going to get back to live music, and I want to know from you, what do you hope both the audience and musician gets from this time? Revelations, realizations, so that when we do reconvene, maybe we're a little bit stronger. There's some things that we realize.
I can't speak to what we should realize as a community through Crisis. I think that's a really personal thing for everyone. How they've dealt with crises that's going to be between them and the people that are close to them, what they take away. What I'm going to take away is that I'm just very lucky. I get to create something, hopefully for the rest of my days. And the rest of my days has never been so in the forefront of my mind as it is now. So creating seems like something I should pursue more furiously, and being thankful for the community I live in, and the job that I get to do for that community seems much more precious to me now than it did before. And I hope I continue to feel that and understand it. You were asking me earlier about the jazz community and the live streams people are doing. I do actually have a list of them, if you would be interested in me saying who's doing that and when.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Okay, so Brian Stever is doing a percussive warm-up every morning at 9 a.m. Monday through Friday. He doesn't work on the weekends, but Monday through Friday. I mean, if anybody plays percussion in the city, especially in the jazz genre, they know Brian. That's a really fun thing to wake up and do. The BAC musician interviews happen at 12:30. Merman, that's Monday through Friday. And then Monday and Wednesdays, we got Merman Duo at 3 p.m. live streaming. Tuesdays and Saturdays, you have Schlamville. And that's Matt Villinger and Peter Schlam. Tuesdays, they play 5:45. Saturday, they play at 3 p.m. They're awesome. I tune into that one pretty frequently. Mark Lowry is outdoing us all by live streaming 6 times a week, Monday through Saturday, 6 to 8 p.m. I also tune in for his. He has plants in the background. And he's just a very, very good piano player. He does a lot of fundraising through those two, I've noticed. And if you're lucky enough to be tuning into a fundraising night, he often will give away a plant for a large enough donation, and that's a personal delivery from him, I believe, of one of the plants in the background. So a special unique touch he's got. And then you got Paul Roberts playing 9 p.m. on Wednesdays. He plays the Fender Rhodes. Jamie Anderson. I've played with Jamie. He's awesome. He's a student of Rod Fleeman, actually, young, upcoming, really talented guitar player. He's playing on Saturday nights, 11 p.m. And I am playing Friday, Saturday, and Sunday nights, 6 to 8 p.m. I do Feel Good Fridays where I'm not really playing much jazz, but I'm playing a lot of oldies and songwriter material that I'm really inspired by. Saturday, I play a set of instrumental jazz. Sunday, I do jazz vocals, 6 to 8.
Well, hey, Jackie, thank you for putting your voice out here. I really appreciate you talking about this very surreal moment we're all living through. And stay safe. Good luck with everything.
Okay, thanks, Joe. Thanks for all the work you do.
Thanks for listening and tuning in to another Neon Jazz interview, where we give you a bit of insight into the finest players in Austin, Kansas City, and spots all over the world, giving fans all that jazz. And thanks to Jackie for her time, music, and stories. If you want to hear more interviews, go to Famous Interviews with Joe Domino on the iTunes Store. Visit Neon Jazz at youtube.com, and for everything Neon Jazz all the time, go to the neonjazz.blogspot.com. Until next time, support the arts, support all these great jazz musicians, and enjoy the music, my friends.
Neon Jazz.